Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're taking you on a spine-chilling journey through the vast and mysterious lands of Russia. From ancient castles to forgotten prisons, Russia is home to some of the most haunted places in the world, where history and the supernatural collide. So, grab a blanket, turn off the lights, and let's explore the 10 most haunted places in Russia that will leave you questioning what's lurking in the shadows. Stay tuned till the end. You won't want to miss the eeriest spot on our list, Pskov Caves Monastery. Nestled deep in the ancient forests near the Russian town of Pskov lies a place shrouded in whispers of the macabre. The Pskov Caves Monastery, once a sanctuary for the devout, harbors secrets far darker than the shadowy catacombs it rests upon. Founded in the 15th century, this sacred site was meant to be a haven for monks fleeing violence and war. But over centuries, its walls absorbed more than just prayers. They became a repository for unspeakable horrors. Locals have long whispered about the labyrinthine catacombs beneath the monastery. These tunnels, carved into the hillside, stretch for miles, a sprawling underground necropolis. Thousands of bodies rest here, but not all of them were laid to rest peacefully. Visitors to the catacombs report strange phenomena, shadows that slither across the walls, voices calling their names, and an overwhelming sense of dread. Some claim the air grows heavier the deeper you go, as though unseen eyes are watching you. But the true horror lies in the stories of those who disappeared. Over the years, pilgrims and even monks have vanished without a trace within these cryptic corridors. Some say their spirits still wander, forever lost in the darkness. The Pskov Caves Monastery has always been a place of mystery. During the 16th century, it was a fortress against foreign invaders. But some accounts suggest it also became a site of gruesome executions. Captives were thrown into the caves alive, left to die in the blackness, their screams echoing through the monastery above. Legends say their restless spirits curse anyone who disturbs their eternal prison. A witness told us, "I will forget what I experienced there. We were deep in the tunnels when my flashlight flickered. That's when we heard it, a woman's voice sobbing. But there was no one there. We tried to leave, but it felt like the walls were closing in. I swear I saw shadows moving in the corner of my eye, but when I turned, they vanished." During the Soviet era, the monastery was raided and desecrated. Religious artifacts were destroyed and monks were imprisoned. Some believe this act of desecration awakened something sinister within the monastery. Reports of strange occurrences increased during this time. Disembodied voices, objects moving on their own, and an inexplicable chill that even the soldiers couldn't ignore. Is the Pskov Caves Monastery a sanctuary, or is it a prison for restless souls? Perhaps it is both. A place where the line between the living and the dead has worn dangerously thin. Would you dare to enter and see what lies beneath? The haunting secrets of Sokol Metro Station. The Moscow Metro, a masterpiece of Soviet engineering, began construction in the 1930s under Stalin's rule. These tunnels were designed not just as transportation hubs, but as showcases of Soviet strength, art, and architecture. However, beneath their grand facades, the metro system hides countless dark secrets, and few stations are more enigmatic than Sokol. Located on the Zamosvoretskia line, Sokol Station seems unremarkable at first glance. But hidden below its surface is a chilling history that continues to haunt those who dare to explore its depths. During the station's construction, several workers reportedly went missing. Some say they were victims of accidents, crushed by collapsing tunnels, or buried alive. Others claim something far more sinister was at play. Whispers of secret experiments and mysterious disappearances have persisted for years, fueling rumors of a cursed site. One legend tells of a hidden chamber beneath Sokol Station, said to house an underground laboratory. Allegedly, this lab was used during the Cold War for experiments involving human subjects. Some claim they were testing ways to create super soldiers. Others believe it was far darker. Experiments that pushed the limits of human endurance, leaving their subjects trapped in eternal agony. Passengers have reported hearing strange noises late at night, the distant wailing of what sounds like tortured souls. Some even claim to have seen shadowy figures lurking on the platform, only to vanish moments later. Are these the spirits of those who perished during the station's construction, or perhaps the remnants of those Cold War experiments? We interviewed local residents and metro employees. A resident told us, "I was waiting for a train late one night. It was almost empty, just me and a few others. Suddenly, the lights flickered and I heard this guttural moaning. It sounded like it was coming from the walls themselves. I left immediately," the employee told us. "We've had strange incidents over the years. Trains stop for no reason, lights go out unexpectedly, and sometimes the station feels alive, like it's watching you. I don't stay here after hours. None of us do." And then there are the disappearances. Over the years, several passengers have reportedly vanished at or near Sokol Station. Most were never found. In one chilling case from the 1980s, a young man named Dmitry was last seen boarding a train at Sokol. Witnesses claim he entered an empty car, but when the train arrived at the next station, he was gone. His belongings were later found abandoned on the platform. Some say the station itself is cursed, a place where reality and the supernatural collide. Urban explorers who have dared to venture into the tunnels around Sokol Station have returned with terrifying stories. They speak of feeling an oppressive presence, hearing unearthly noises, and even seeing strange symbols etched into the walls. Symbols that defy explanation. What lies beyond these doors? Could it be the remnants of the rumored laboratory? Or something even more disturbing? A portal to another realm. The haunting mystery of Igumnov House, Moscow's most disturbing legend. The story begins in the late 19th century when Nikolai Igumnov, a wealthy textile magnate, commissioned this mansion. Igumnov was no ordinary man. He was a character of excess and paranoia, obsessed with building the most extravagant house in Moscow. Rumors say he personally demanded its intricate design, despite its unusual mix of Gothic and Russian revival styles. But behind the grandeur lay a darker truth. Igumnov's relentless demands led to financial troubles, and soon whispers of his cruelty emerged. Some claimed he drove workers to their deaths during construction, their unmarked graves hidden beneath the foundations. Others believed he was dabbling in black magic, seeking to infuse the house with power and immortality. But what truly cemented the house's sinister reputation was an act of violence that shook the city. Nikolai Igumnov's downfall wasn't financial, it was personal. He became infatuated with a young mistress, a woman of striking beauty but humble origins. Consumed by jealousy and mistrust, Igumnov accused her of infidelity. Legend has it that, in a fit of rage, he lured her to the house's grand ballroom and committed a horrifying act. Murder. Her body was never found, but her blood, they say, stained the floor so deeply that no amount of scrubbing could erase it. Igumnov, fearing exposure, fled Moscow, leaving behind his cursed mansion. The house fell into disrepair, but the whispers didn't stop. Locals began reporting strange sightings. By the early 20th century, the Igumnov house had become infamous. Tenants reported unexplainable phenomena, doors slamming shut on their own, disembodied footsteps echoing in the halls, and a ghostly woman in white wandering the corridors. Some claimed to see her staring out from the windows at night, her hollow eyes filled with sorrow. Others reported hearing her whisper a name, Nikolai. The most chilling story comes from a night guard in the 1930s. He was found dead in the basement, his face frozen in an expression of utter terror. The only clue? A single, bloody handprint smeared across the wall. In 1938, the Igumnov house was repurposed as the French embassy. Diplomats and staff, however, weren't immune to the house's eerie aura. Many reported feeling watched, as if unseen eyes were following them. Late-night meetings in the mansion often ended abruptly due to an inexplicable sense of dread. Some even refused to stay overnight. The Igumnov house is more than just a relic of Moscow's past. It's a place where the veil between the living and the dead feels paper-thin. Some say the house itself is cursed, absorbing the anguish and torment of those who enter it. Others believe it's a portal, a place where spirits are trapped, reliving their tragedies for eternity. The House of Rasputin, St. Petersburg. Grigory Rasputin, a name synonymous with mysticism, scandal, and unrelenting controversy. A man who rose from obscurity as a Siberian peasant to become the trusted confidant of the Romanov family. But his enigmatic life was as dark as it was extraordinary, marked by rumors of hypnotic powers, sinister rituals, and an unholy influence over Russia's last royal family. Today, one of the most infamous sites tied to Rasputin's legend is this house in St. Petersburg. Though he was assassinated in 1916, the eerie tales tied to this building have kept his memory alive in ways no history book ever could. But what secrets does this house hold? And why do some say it's cursed? The story begins with Rasputin's rumored rituals, private gatherings of the elite, where seances, occult ceremonies, and dark practices allegedly took place. Witnesses spoke of strange chanting emanating from behind these walls, accompanied by flickering candlelight visible through the curtains. Some even claimed to see Rasputin's shadow moving unnaturally, as if he were not alone, as if something otherworldly was with him. Rasputin's influence over the Romanovs earned him powerful enemies. Many viewed him as a demon cloaked in human skin, manipulating the Tsarina and sowing discord across the empire. After his death, his connection to this house became even more sinister. Rasputin's death was a tale of its own. Poisoned with cyanide-laced wine, shot at close range, and ultimately drowned in the freezing Neva River. But even death didn't silence him. They say his spirit returned, tethered to places he had frequented in life. This house being one of them. One of the most chilling moments was when we found a room with Rasputin's portrait. The temperature dropped dramatically, and we saw shadows moving across the walls. Even though we were alone, locals say this house is cursed. Over the years, it has been home to countless tragedies, sudden deaths, disappearances, and unexplained madness. Some believe the spirit of Rasputin guards the house, while others think darker forces dwell here, unleashed by his occult practices. Among the most disturbing discoveries in the house are the ritual symbols etched into the floorboards. Researchers have identified some as belonging to ancient Slavic pagan traditions, while others seem entirely alien, an enigma even to experts. The House of Rasputin stands as a chilling reminder of a man whose life and death were anything but ordinary. Is it merely an old building steeped in history? Or is it a portal to something far darker? Something waiting for those who dare to enter. Nizhny Novgorod Kremlin. They call it the heart of Nizhny Novgorod. The Kremlin, a fortress steeped in over 500 years of history. It's a symbol of power, resilience, and secrets. But hidden beneath its majestic walls are tales of terror, bloodshed, and the supernatural. Stories that refuse to die. This fortress, built in the early 16th century, has withstood the test of time. But its walls have seen more than just battles. They've witnessed suffering, betrayal, and death. Some say the stones themselves remember, and what they remember, they sometimes share with the living. Legend has it that when the Kremlin was being constructed, human sacrifices were made to ensure its walls would stand strong. Ancient Slavic traditions believe that a soul must be offered to protect a great structure. The unlucky chosen ones were buried alive within the foundations. To this day, visitors claim to hear faint cries coming from deep within the walls. Perhaps the most infamous legend of the Nizhny Novgorod Kremlin is that of the White Lady, a ghost said to wander the fortress at night. The story goes that she was the wife of a nobleman falsely accused of treason. Her husband was executed within the Kremlin, and she threw herself from the top of one of its towers in grief. Visitors claim to see her pale figure roaming the grounds, her sobs echoing in the dead of night. Is it a trick of the light, or something more sinister? Those who encountered her say her presence is unmistakable. The air grows cold, and an overwhelming sadness fills your chest. And then there are the stains. Some say they're just water damage, but others believe there's something far darker. Blood that seeped into the stone over centuries, refusing to fade. But perhaps the most chilling tales come from the tunnels beneath the Kremlin, a labyrinth of passageways and chambers that stretch for miles. Many of these tunnels remain unexplored, sealed off to the public. But those who dare to enter speak of shadows that move on their own, disembodied voices, and an overwhelming sense of dread. What lies beneath the Kremlin? Ancient relics? Hidden graves? Or something far more sinister? The tunnels have become the stuff of nightmares, inspiring countless tales of horror. St. Michael's Castle. The story of St. Michael's Castle begins with Emperor Paul I of Russia, a ruler who lived in constant fear. Paul ascended the throne in 1796, inheriting an empire rife with conspiracies and murder. His paranoia became legend. He believed enemies lurked everywhere, even within his own court. Driven by this fear, he dreamed of a fortress-like residence, one that could protect him from the shadowy threats he perceived. Thus, St. Michael's Castle was born. Construction began in 1797, built on marshy ground where the Fontanka and Moika rivers meet. The castle was surrounded by moats and connected to the city by drawbridges. Paul spared no expense. Its design was an eclectic mix of Italian Renaissance, Gothic, and neoclassical styles, a reflection of his eccentric and tormented mind. But even as the walls rose, whispers began to spread. The castle's location had a dark history. It was said the land was cursed, a place where countless executions had taken place. Local legends claimed the soil was soaked with the blood of the condemned. Paul ignored these warnings. Perhaps he thought the grandeur of his creation could overpower any lingering darkness. He was wrong. Paul moved into the castle in February of 1801. He believed it was a sanctuary, but his enemies were closer than he realized. Just 40 days after taking residence, Paul was brutally assassinated in his own bedroom. The conspirators were nobles, military officers, even his own guards, all people he trusted. They stormed his quarters and suffocated him with a scarf, leaving his lifeless body on the cold, polished floor. Paul's death marked the beginning of the castle's haunting. Witnesses claimed that even before his body was removed, strange occurrences began. Footsteps echoed in empty halls. Shadows moved where no one should be. Some swore they heard whispers in the dead of night, pleading and desperate. One of the most famous stories comes from a night guard who worked at the castle in the 19th century. He claimed to see Paul's ghost wandering near the throne room. The apparition's face was pale, its eyes hollow, and it whispered, "Why?" before vanishing into thin air. St. Michael's Castle isn't just haunted by Paul. Over the years, other apparitions have been reported. Some believe the spirits of the condemned who perished on this cursed ground are trapped here. Visitors often report hearing faint cries and moans emanating from the stone walls. Others claim to see fleeting figures out of the corner of their eyes, only for them to disappear when they turn to look. It's not just the ghostly sightings that make St. Michael's Castle disturbing. Some say the very structure of the building is cursed. Architects who worked on the castle died under mysterious circumstances. And there's a strange symmetry to its design, as if the walls themselves were designed to trap not just people, but their souls. The statues and carvings that adorn the castle only add to its eerie aura. Many depict angels and saints, but their faces are unsettling, as if they're watching you. Some visitors have even reported seeing the statues move, their eyes following them as they walk through the halls. Despite its haunting history, St. Michael's Castle stands as a monument to Paul I's paranoia and tragedy. Its beauty hides a sinister truth. This place is a tomb, not just for the body, but for the spirit. The restless dead still wander here, their cries echoing through the corridors, their stories waiting to be told. Would you dare to walk its halls? To stand where Paul's life was violently stolen? Perhaps you might feel the chill of his presence, or hear his anguished whispers. St. Michael's Castle is more than just a historical site. It's a reminder that some places never let go. The Haunting of Kusovnikov House. In the 19th century, house number 17 was home to Pyotr and Sofia Kusovnikov, a wealthy but miserly couple. Their obsession with wealth led them to hide money throughout their home, fearing theft even from their own servants. Their paranoia knew no bounds. They concealed their riches in the most unexpected places, including the fireplace, a decision that would seal their fate. One fateful evening, unaware of the hidden stash, a servant lit a fire to warm the room. As the flames consumed the logs, they also devoured a significant portion of the Kusovnikovs' hidden fortune. Upon discovering the loss, Sofia was overcome with grief. The shock was too great for her heart to bear, and she died instantly. Pyotr, devastated and guilt-ridden, followed her to the grave shortly after. Since that tragic night, locals have reported eerie sightings near the Kusovnikov house. The most common apparition is that of a hunched old man in a coat, believed to be Pyotr Kusovnikov himself. Witnesses describe him as searching, perhaps eternally mourning the loss of his beloved wife and their squandered wealth. The house itself seems frozen in time, a decaying monument to its tragic past. Some say that on quiet nights, if you listen closely, you can hear the faint sobs of a woman and the desperate murmurs of a man. Is it the wind or the restless spirits of the Kusovnikovs, forever bound to their earthly sorrow? Vagankovo Cemetery, Moscow. Located in the heart of Moscow, Vagankovo Cemetery is a site of eerie history, where the dead have not always rested peacefully, and some never do. But what makes this cemetery truly unsettling isn't just its age. It's the stories. Stories of the restless souls that wander its paths even after death. The history of Vagankovo Cemetery dates back to 1771. It has been a burial place for some of Russia's most notable figures, artists, scientists, politicians. Yet not all those who are buried here left peacefully. In the early 20th century, during the chaos of the Russian Revolution, many found themselves buried in mass graves, victims of violence, betrayal, and injustice. Among the graves are those of unknown souls, victims of secret executions, and some say, those who died under mysterious circumstances. Could these restless spirits be the cause of the strange occurrences reported at the cemetery? Is the air in Vagankovo thick with the rage of those who never received proper burials? Or is there something darker, something more sinister at play? Eyewitnesses have reported eerie sounds coming from the graves at night, whispers, footsteps, and even the sounds of chains dragging on the ground. Some claim that these sounds are the result of something or someone trying to escape. Ghosts are not uncommon in cemeteries, but there's something about Vagankovo that gives its spirits an unrelenting presence. The most disturbing account is that of a spectral woman who has been seen walking between the graves at night. With tattered clothes and her face hidden in shadow, she seems to search for something or someone. Some believe she is the spirit of a woman who was buried alive, her death misunderstood, her soul forever trapped in torment. Others speak of an entity that haunts the old Soviet section of the cemetery, a tall, dark figure that appears to be made of shadows. Witnesses claim the figure is always lurking, watching, waiting. No one who has seen it has ever lived to tell the full story. And then there's a darkness that seems to permeate the ground itself. Unearthly forces that drag the living into the very earth the dead once inhabited. People who venture too close to certain graves at Vagankovo often report strange feelings, unease, dizziness, and sometimes even physical harm. There are accounts of people being scratched, pulled at, and shoved by unseen forces. One man who tried to photograph the mausoleum of a notorious figure was found dead the next morning, his body twisted and mangled in a way that defied explanation. Some locals believe that Vagankovo Cemetery is cursed, a place where the dead never truly leave. And as the years pass, the curses grow stronger, more malevolent. Could it be that the spirits of those buried here are angry, restless? That they refuse to stay beneath the earth? One thing is certain. Vagankovo is a place where the lines between the living and the dead are no longer clear. The dark secrets of Oldenburg Palace, Russia's forgotten horror. Built in the 19th century for the Duke of Oldenburg and his wife, Grand Duchess Eugenia. The palace was meant to be a romantic getaway, a paradise of luxury and serenity. But from the very beginning, whispers of misfortune surrounded the land it was built upon. Local folklore speaks of an ancient, cursed burial ground that the palace now rests upon, a place where the restless dead were disturbed. During its construction, workers reportedly saw strange apparitions, shadowy figures drifting through the woods, eyes glowing like embers in the dark. They spoke of chilling voices echoing from the trees, though no one was there. When several workers fell to their deaths in mysterious accidents, the townsfolk were convinced the land was cursed. Yet, despite the ominous warnings, the palace was completed and the Duke and Duchess moved in. But it wasn't long before the curse seemed to take hold of them as well. The once vibrant Duchess reportedly became obsessed with seances, convinced that she could hear the voices of the dead within the palace walls. She claimed that a woman in a blood-soaked dress would appear to her at night, whispering warnings in a language no one could understand. And then, there were the disappearances. Servants went missing without a trace. Horses would bolt in terror, refusing to approach the palace gates. Villagers began to speak of a creature lurking in the shadows, a grotesque figure with elongated limbs and hollow eyes that prowled the grounds at night. One story, in particular, stands out. A maid named Anna reportedly fled the palace one stormy night, screaming that it was coming for her. The next morning, her body was found near the riverbank, her face frozen in a twisted expression of terror. Strangely, there were no signs of injury, no clear cause of death, just that look of unspeakable fear. As the years passed, the palace fell into disrepair. The Duke and Duchess left under mysterious circumstances, abandoning the estate to decay. But the horrors didn't leave with them. Paranormal investigators who visited the palace report chilling experiences, cold spots, disembodied whispers, and sudden, inexplicable feelings of dread. Some claim to have captured ghostly apparitions on camera. Others refuse to speak of what they encountered inside. But perhaps the most disturbing story is that of the crypt beneath the palace. While officially denied, rumors persist that the Duke had a hidden basement where strange experiments were conducted. Experiments involving both animals and humans. Locals say that if you stand near the palace at night, you can hear faint cries coming from underground. And then there's the legend of the Watcher, a tall, skeletal figure dressed in tattered black robes, said to stalk anyone who dares enter the palace grounds after sunset. Those who claim to have seen it say its eyes burn like fire and its touch is ice cold. Several visitors have reported waking up days later, miles away from the palace, with no memory of how they got there. There are stories we tell to scare children, and then there are stories that even the adults fear to speak of. Oldenburg Palace belongs to the latter. So what really happened at Oldenburg Palace? Was it the result of superstition, coincidence, or something far more sinister? The answers remain buried in the cold soil of Voronezh. But one thing is certain. This palace is no ordinary ruin.
The Black Dolphin Prison, Russia. This is not just a prison. It's a nightmare. A place where the darkest human beings are locked away. Murderers, rapists, terrorists. Some of the most brutal criminals in the world. But the true horror of the Black Dolphin isn't just the criminals inside. It's the way the Russian government has chosen to break their spirits. To understand the true terror of Black Dolphin, you must first know its rules. And these rules, they are not just laws. They are a form of psychological torture, a method of complete domination. ILT in the 1990s, Black Dolphin was designed to house the worst of the worst, and its reputation grew quickly. It's said that the prison's name was derived from a chilling symbol, a black dolphin tattooed on the bodies of prisoners who die in custody. The symbol of a creature that's both beautiful and deadly, an ironic mark for men who will never be free again. The cells? Less than 4 square meters. That's roughly the size of a small bedroom, but without the comfort. Inmates are shackled by their wrists and ankles, forced to lie on their backs, facing the wall almost constantly. They are only allowed to leave their cell for a short time each day. The rest of their existence is spent alone, in complete isolation. Black Dolphin's rules are not just physical, they are psychological. Prisoners are constantly monitored. They are never allowed to speak, look, or interact with each other. Even eye contact is forbidden. The guards enforce this with terrifying precision. But the true horror comes when you realize that every guard at Black Dolphin is trained to anticipate the next move of every prisoner. If you look up, you're punished. If you speak, you're punished. If you so much as breathe too loudly, you're punished. There are countless reports of men going insane from the isolation, some tearing at their own skin or screaming until their throats bleed. And those who make it through, they emerge as husks of what they once were, broken beyond recognition. But there's a secret darker than all of this: the prison's silent kill rate. Many who die within Black Dolphin aren't listed as murder victims. They just disappear. The haunting truth? No one knows how many have died. But they say that the bodies are taken away, never to be seen again. This is the Black Dolphin prison, a place where the worst criminals in Russia face their final punishment, not through death, but through endless despair. A place where even the strongest minds are broken, piece by piece, until they can never escape, even when they leave.
Well, there you have it. 10 of the most haunted places in Russia that are sure to give you goosebumps. Whether it's a ghostly czar wandering the halls, or the tragic souls of forgotten prisoners, these eerie locations are filled with stories that will haunt your dreams. If you enjoyed this chilling tour, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and share with your friends. You know, just in case they want some spooky company. Until next time, stay curious, and maybe stay away from these places